My parents decided I get everything. Kara gets nothing. My brother Logan said it like he was announcing a scholarship, not erasing a person. We were packed into my parents' formal dining room in Scottsdale. The one that smelled like lemon polish and expensive coffee. A dozen relatives. A few family friends. And my brother's fiancée with her perfect smile and perfect nails. Someone had even poured champagne like this was a celebration, instead of a funeral for my place in the family. Logan lifted his glass higher. Grinning. 6 rental homes in the valley. All under my name now. Mom and Dad finally did the right thing. The room exploded into applause. Cheers. Whistles. A cousin slapped his back. His fiancée squeezed his arm like she'd just won the lottery. My mom dabbed her eyes with a proud little tear that never seemed to appear for me. My dad nodded slowly. Like he'd solved a complicated problem. I didn't clap. I didn't even blink. I just looked straight at my father and said, calm as ever, "Dad, you forgot one thing." "Didn't you?" His fork froze halfway to his mouth. Logan's grin vanished so fast it was almost funny. His fiancée stopped mid-sip. A silence dropped over the table so hard you could hear the air conditioner humming in the vents and a spoon tapping a glass somewhere in the kitchen. My mom forced a laugh. "Kara, don't do this. Not today. Today. The day they planned to crown him. The day they planned to make my absence official." I held my father's gaze. "You're about to hand him something you don't actually have the right to give." My dad's face tightened. "What are you talking about?" Logan leaned forward. Voice sharp. "You're jealous. You left. You don't even live here." That was the story they loved to tell. That I abandoned them. That I opted out. It sounded cleaner than the truth. Which was that I got tired of spending my life in my brother's shadow. Logan was the golden child. The hometown hero. The one everyone forgave before he even apologized. He got the nice car in high school. He got the second chances. He got the family business lessons. Even when he treated them like a game. I got the role of reliable daughter. Which in our family meant the one who didn't get celebrated. Just used. When I asked for help with college, my mom said money was tight. When Logan needed a new truck, money magically appeared. When I earned a full scholarship and moved to Minnesota for a job after graduation, my dad's only comment was, "Guess someone has to run away." So I did. Minneapolis gave me oxygen. I learned how money really moves. How property is protected. How trust paperwork can outlive 1,000 family speeches. I stopped calling home for approval I was never going to receive. The only person who never made me feel small was my grandmother. June Whitfield. She didn't gush. She didn't compare. She just watched. Like she was studying a storm and memorizing its pattern. Before she died, she made me promise something. A simple sentence that sounded like nothing at the time, but sat heavy in my chest ever since. Paper beats promises. Back in my parents' dining room, Logan's fiancée finally found her voice. "Kara, this is embarrassing." My dad's eyes flicked to my mother. Then, back to me. "Do you have something to say?" "Say it." I nodded once. "I do." But not in a shouting match. Logan's jaw clenched. "Then what?" "You're going to threaten us." I let out a small breath. Not anger. Not sadness. Just acceptance. "No. I'm going to remind you of what you chose to ignore." Because in that moment, every person at that table realized the script they rehearsed for months was about to burn. If you want to know what my dad forgot and why my brother's victory toast turned into pure panic in under 60 seconds, thank you for staying with me. If this story pulls on something familiar, your support through a like, A comment, a share, or a subscribe truly means a lot. And I read your words with real gratitude. I didn't come back to Scottsdale because I missed them. I came back because a lawyer in a gray suit called my work phone in Minneapolis and said, "Ms. Whitfield, your grandmother's estate has a clause that triggers today." A clause. That one word pulled me straight into the past. Grandma June was the only person in my family who saw the pattern early praise for Logan. Pressure for me. When Logan broke things, he was spirited. When I broke down, I was dramatic. When Logan failed a semester, my parents called it a setback. When I got a promotion, they called it luck. June never yelled about it. She didn't scold my parents. She simply watched my mother fuss over Logan's accomplishments like they were trophies. And she watched my father excuse his behavior like it was weather he couldn't control. Then she did what she always did when she couldn't trust people. She trusted paper. When I was 21, June took me to lunch at a quiet diner off Shea Boulevard and slid a folder across the table like she was handing me a secret. "You're not going to like what I'm about to say," she warned. I stared at the folder. "Then don't say it." She smiled faintly. "Your parents will always choose your brother first. It isn't fair, but it's predictable." I hated hearing it out loud, because it made my hope feel childish. June leaned in. "So I'm going to protect you in a way they can't talk over." Inside the folder were copies of trust drafts, property deeds, and a handwritten note in her sharp, slanted cursive, paper beats promises. She wasn't leaving me a sentimental locket. She was leaving me leverage, but she also made it clear she wasn't trying to punish anyone. She was trying to keep a lifetime of work from being swallowed by the loudest person at the table, Logan. When June died, I flew back for the funeral. My parents hugged me stiffly, like we were co-workers. Logan cried loudly at the front row, then asked the pastor if he could mention how close he and Grandma were. He posted a photo of them the next day with the caption, "Forever my biggest supporter." I didn't argue. I didn't correct him. I grieved quietly. I also remembered June's eyes when she told me, "Your brother will take whatever isn't nailed down." So when my parents invited me to this inheritance distribution dinner, I knew what it was. Not a legal necessity. A performance. A coronation for Logan. With me as the silent extra they'd forgotten to cut. And they assumed I wouldn't show. But the lawyer's call changed everything. "Your father and mother are attempting to transfer assets that intersect with June's trust," he said. "If they do it without acknowledging her documents, they expose themselves to legal issues. You should be present." That's how I ended up in the lemon-polished dining room, watching Logan toast himself. When I said, "Dad, you forgot one thing," I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't being dramatic. I was stating a fact, because my parents were about to hand Logan properties they didn't fully own, accounts they didn't have unilateral authority over, and a set of keys that had already been promised to someone else in a way that couldn't be undone by family pressure. As the room stayed frozen, my mother tried to regain control with a tight smile. "Kara," she said, "whatever you're implying, we can talk privately later." I shook my head. "No. We're talking now." My father's face reddened. "You're trying to embarrass us." "You've been embarrassing me my whole life," I said softly. "I'm just not doing it quietly anymore." Logan stood, chair scraping. "Stop acting like you're some hero. You weren't here. You didn't help Mom when she was sick. You didn't help Dad with the properties." I looked at him evenly. "You mean when I sent money every month and you called it rent so you wouldn't feel guilty taking it?" His fiancé's eyes widened. A cousin murmured, Wait. What Logan's mouth tightened. That's not. I reached into my purse and placed a thick envelope on the tablecloth. No wax seal. No theatrics. Just wait. My father stared at it. What is that? I slid it toward him. Open it. Then answer the call. My mother's voice rose. Sharp. Call from who I met her gaze. Grandma June's attorney. He's on video. For the first time all night. My father looked uncertain. Logan's confidence flickered. And I saw it, the fear of paperwork he couldn't charm. I tapped the envelope once. Go ahead. Dad, I said. Let's see what you actually have the right to give. My father's hand hovered over the envelope like it might bite him. Then he did what he always did. When a room watched him, he chose pride. He tore it open. The first page had a letterhead I recognized from Grandma June's kitchen drawer, where she kept important things in plain sight because she didn't believe in hiding from reality. Whitfield Trust and Estate Council. My father's eyes moved across the lines. His face tightened. My mother leaned in, reading over his shoulder, and the color drained from her cheeks in slow motion. Logan tried to laugh it off. It's just paperwork. Dad, don't let her make this into a thing. My father swallowed. Kara, what did your grandmother do? I pulled my phone out and tapped the screen. She did what she had to. Dana wasn't my lawyer this time, but I had my own counsel on standby in Minneapolis, and Grandma's attorney had offered to speak live if I needed him. I hadn't wanted to make a scene. They forced it. I hit accept on the video call and turned the phone so everyone could see. A man in his 60s appeared on the screen. Neat gray hair. Glasses low on his nose. Office, shelves, packed with binders. He didn't smile. Good evening, he said calmly. I'm Arthur Keene, counsel for the June Whitfield Trust. My father's voice came out hoarse. Arthur, why is Kara calling you right now? Arthur looked straight into the camera. Because you are currently attempting to distribute assets that are not solely yours to distribute. The words landed like a dropped plate. My mother's voice sharpened instantly. That's ridiculous. June was old. She didn't understand what she signed. Arthur's expression didn't change. Mrs. Whitfield. Your mother-in-law was competent, evaluated, and advised. The trust documents were executed properly. Logan leaned forward, jaw tight. What does any of this have to do with me getting the properties? Arthur didn't blink. It means those 6 rental homes, as well as 2 investment accounts you're referring to as family assets, are held under the June Whitfield Trust. Silence. Somewhere at the far end of the table, a cousin whispered, Wait. The rentals are in a trust. My father looked like he couldn't decide whether to be angry or terrified. June put them in a trust. Arthur nodded slightly. Yes. The trust was designed to prevent unilateral transfers without trustee authorization. My mother's voice rose. So who's the trustee? Arthur answered, like he was reading the weather. There are 2 co-trustees, Richard Whitfield and Kara Whitfield. Logan's head snapped toward me. What my mother's chair scraped as she stood halfway up. No, that's not possible. Arthur continued. Any sale, transfer, refinance, or reassignment requires signatures from both trustees. Any attempt to distribute those assets solely to Logan Whitfield without Kara's consent is invalid. My father's hand shook on the paper. Kara, why didn't you tell us? I held his gaze. You didn't ask. You just announced I get nothing. Logan's face went red. His fiancée's smile disappeared entirely now, her eyes darting between us like she'd walked into a different family than the one she thought she was marrying. Logan slammed his palm on the table. This is insane. You're doing this to humiliate me. My mother snapped. Kara, stop stealing the spotlight. Tonight was about family unity. Unity. The word made me almost laugh again. I kept my voice low. Tonight was about erasing me. Arthur's voice remained steady. Additionally, I must inform you that Ms. Whitfield has provided documentation showing prior transfers from her personal account to support property expenses. Those transfers establish contribution and intent consistent with the trust structure. My father's eyes flicked up. Transfers. I opened another folder and slid printed bank statements across the table. For 3 years, I said, I covered maintenance shortfalls and insurance spikes when your tenants didn't pay. Every month, Logan scoffed. Too loud. You're lying. I pointed at a line item. That's your name. Logan. You withdrew the cash. His fiancée's eyes widened, and her hand flew to her mouth. Logan, you told me you were paying those bills. Logan's voice cracked. That's not the point. It is the point. I said, because you didn't just claim everything tonight. You've been taking from it for years. My mother's voice turned shrill. You're turning everyone against him, I looked at her calmly. No. The receipts are. Logan stood so abruptly his chair fell backward with a thud. Fine. He spat. If you want to play hardball, I'll force it. I'll sue you. I'll make you regret this. Arthur's voice cut in. Precise. Mr. Whitfield. Threats are not productive. Also, you should be aware that the trust has a protective clause. Logan froze. What clause? Arthur glanced down at his notes. If any beneficiary attempts to coerce, harass, or legally intimidate a trustee to gain unauthorized control, distributions can be paused pending court review. My father's face drained. My mother's mouth opened, then closed. Logan stared at me, breathing hard. You wouldn't. I didn't raise my voice. Try me. I tapped my phone once. My Minneapolis counsel had already set the instruction. Within seconds, my father's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced down and went still. Account alert. He whispered. The trust disbursement is temporarily suspended. Logan's rage stalled into shock, because in one quiet movement, the keys he thought were in his pocket disappeared. And everyone at that table finally understood the thing my grandmother tried to teach me long ago. Paper beats promises. The dining room didn't erupt right away. It sagged. It was like everyone's bodies needed a second to catch up to what their minds were refusing to accept. Champagne sat forgotten. Plates cooled. A cousin's laugh died halfway out of his throat. Logan looked around the table, searching for the old reflex he'd always relied on, people rushing to protect him. It flickered, then failed. My mother found her voice first. Tight and urgent. Richard, she snapped. Tell her to undo that. Right now, my father stared at the alert on his phone like it was written in another language. Kara, you froze the trust. I didn't freeze anything, I said quietly. Grandma's claws did. Logan stepped toward me like he could physically intimidate ink on paper. You can't do this. Those properties are mine. Everyone heard Dad. I didn't back away. Everyone heard Dad announce something he didn't have the authority to announce. His fiancée, Chelsea, rose slowly from her chair. Her voice was small but sharp. So you lied to me. You've been taking money from Kara's transfers and telling me you were paying the bills. Logan's eyes flashed. Chelsea. Not now. It's exactly now, she snapped, then turned to me. Kara. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I nodded once. Not softening. Not gloating. I'm not interested in apologies from people who benefited from not knowing. My mother pressed her palm to the table, leaning forward like she was about to lecture a child. This is family business. You don't bring outside lawyers into family. I met her gaze. You brought champagne into betrayal. Her lips tightened. You're being cruel. No. I said. I'm being clear. Logan's tone shifted from rage to something darker. What do you want? There it was. The first time all night he sounded like he wasn't king. Like he was negotiating with a reality he couldn't bully. I didn't rush my answer. I let the silence do work. Then I said, I want transparency. My father blinked. Transparency about what I slid my printed statements back toward the center of the table. Every dollar that came in, and every dollar that went out of those properties for the last 3 years. Every maintenance invoice. Every withdrawal. Every transfer. No more, trust me. No more stories. Logan scoffed. This is ridiculous. It's not. I replied. It's the only way I'll consider releasing the pause. My mother's voice rose into that familiar, scolding pitch. You're punishing your brother because you feel left out. You could have just asked for a share. A share. Like my life was a pie they were slicing without me. I wasn't left out. I said, I was used. Logan crossed his arms. Fine. You want numbers, we'll give you numbers. Then you'll sign, and we move on. I shook my head. Not numbers you typed up. A forensic accountant. Independent. Chosen by the trust council. My mother looked scandalized. You don't trust your own family. I held her stare. You raised me not to. Logan's eyes narrowed. And if we don't agree, I didn't hesitate. Then the trust stays paused until the court tells us what happens next. That made my father finally stand. Voice cracking with anger and fear. You're tearing us apart. I looked at him, and for a moment, something softened in me. Because I could see it, he wanted to believe tonight could have been simple. He wanted to hand Logan everything and walk away feeling like a good father. But good fathers don't erase daughters. I didn't tear us apart. I said gently. You did. When you decided I didn't count. My mother's eyes flashed. After everything we gave you. This is how you repay us. You owe your brother. You owe us. You owe this family. The word owe made my stomach turn. I reached into my purse and pulled out a single page. Then placed it on the table like a boundary. Here's what I owe. I said. A signature that protects Grandma's work. That's it. Logan's voice turned icy. You think you're untouchable now? I looked at him calmly. I think you're accountable now. My father sank back into his chair. Defeated. My mother stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Logan's fiancée looked like she'd been watching the floor drop out from under her future. I picked up my phone and glanced at the screen. Arthur Keene had already sent the next steps. A formal trust meeting. A date. A checklist. I looked at my family. We'll meet with Arthur on Tuesday. He'll appoint the accountant. Until then. The pause stays. Logan took a step forward again. Jaw clenched. You're enjoying this. I shook my head. I'm surviving it. Then I walked out, leaving them in a room full of cold champagne and the first honest consequence they'd faced in years. Tuesday's trust meeting wasn't held in a dining room with champagne. It was held in Arthur Keene's office, under fluorescent lights, with a long conference table that felt designed to keep emotions small and facts loud. The walls were lined with binders labeled with last names and years. Like a museum of other families' mistakes. My parents arrived 10 minutes late, as if punctuality could be optional when they were uncomfortable. Logan came in last. Sunglasses on indoors. posture rigid, like he'd been up all night rehearsing rage. Chelsea followed him, quieter than before, eyes scanning the room like she was searching for an exit. Arthur nodded politely. "Thank you for coming. Before we begin, I want everyone to understand the purpose of this meeting is trust, compliance, not family therapy." My mother's mouth tightened. "We don't need therapy. We need this resolved." Arthur didn't react. He clicked a pen. "Then, we begin with the accounting." The forensic accountant Arthur hired was a woman named Renee Park. Calm and unsmiling. She had a laptop, 3 folders, and the kind of precision that makes liars sweat. She started with a timeline. Over the past 36 months, she said, there were 42 cash withdrawals and 14 electronic transfers from the property operating account to an account controlled by Logan Whitfield. Logan scoffed. "Those were reimbursements." Renee didn't look up. "No invoices support that claim." Chelsea's face tightened. "Logan, what is she talking about?" Logan didn't answer. He stared straight ahead like ignoring reality was a strategy. Renee continued. "Additionally, several maintenance invoices were duplicated, altered, or paid to vendors who do not exist in the state registry." My father's eyes widened. "Are you saying someone created fake vendors?" Renee nodded. "I'm saying there is evidence of fabricated payees, and the funds were routed into a secondary account." My mother sat up straighter. "This is outrageous. Kara is twisting this." Arthur's voice stayed calm. "Mrs. Whitfield, Kara is not speaking. The accountant is—" Renee moved to the next document, sliding it across the table. "There is also a recorded lien filing on property 4, executed 8 months ago." My father blinked. "A lien," Renee nodded. "A home equity line was opened. The property was used as collateral." Silence hit so hard, Chelsea's chair creaked when she shifted. Logan's voice came out low and defensive. "It was temporary." Chelsea turned to him, eyes wide. "You mortgaged a rental house behind everyone's back," Logan snapped. "I was fixing things. Dad wasn't doing it. Kara was gone. I kept my voice even. I was sending money every month." "Logan," Renee added quietly, "those funds did not go to repairs." My mother's face flushed. He was under pressure. He was managing. Someone had to. Arthur leaned forward slightly. "Managing a trust asset does not include self-dealing." Logan's jaw clenched. "So what now? You all want to destroy me?" Arthur turned to me. "Ms. Whitfield, as co-trustee, you have options." I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. I simply laid out the truth in plain English. "Option 1. I said, we treat this like a breach. We take it to court. The trust pursues recovery, and the judge decides whether Logan should be removed as a beneficiary." Chelsea gasped softly. Logan's head snapped toward me. "You wouldn't dare." I met his eyes. "Try me again." I continued. "Option 2. We resolve it here. Logan repays what he took, closes the lien, signs an agreement to step away from any management role, and signs a non-interference clause." My father looked like he'd been punched. "Repay." How much? Renee slid a final sheet forward. "With fees and interest exposure, approximately $184. 600. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. "No, that can't be right." Chelsea whispered. Logan's face was red now. Not just anger. Shame. Cornered shame. He shoved his chair back. "This is a setup. Kara planned this to take me down." Arthur's voice was firm. Kara didn't create the withdrawals. Logan turned toward my father. Dad, say something. Tell them this is crazy. My father stared down at the papers. Shoulders sagging, his voice came out small. Why? Logan didn't answer. Because there wasn't an answer that sounded good in fluorescent lighting. Chelsea stood up slowly. Eyes wet. I can't marry into this, she whispered, and walked out of the room without looking back. That was the moment Logan realized the consequences weren't just legal. They were personal. He sat back down hard, jaw tight, eyes glossy with rage. Fine, he muttered. I'll sign. Arthur placed the agreement in front of him. Logan grabbed the pen like he wanted to stab the paper, then signed in sharp, angry strokes. He pushed it back and looked at me with a stare that promised nothing good. This isn't over, he said. I didn't flinch. For the trust, I said calmly. It is. Logan signed the agreement on Tuesday. And by Friday, he was telling everyone a different story. In my parents' neighborhood, stories move faster than facts. By the weekend, I was the greedy sister who stole the family's inheritance. I was the outsider who came back to humiliate everyone. My mother's friends started watching my social media like they were gathering evidence. A cousin posted a vague quote about betrayal and tagged me without using my name. Logan didn't have the trust anymore. So he tried to take the narrative. He texted me late one night. You're going to pay for what you did. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to my attorney and blocked the number. That's what people like Logan hate most. Not pushback. Not shouting. Silence that can't be manipulated. Arthur filed the signed agreement with the trust records and sent formal notices to the property management company, the banks, and the insurance carrier. The lien was closed within a week. The repayment plan was established through a structured withdrawal from Logan's personal accounts. Monitored. Automatic. Non-negotiable. Every step had a timestamp. Paper beats promises. My father called me after the paperwork cleared, not to congratulate me, not to apologize immediately. His voice was careful, like he was stepping onto ice. Kara, he said, your mother is upset. I let the silence stretch. Is she upset that Logan got caught? Or upset that I didn't stay quiet? He exhaled. Both. I looked out the hotel window at the Arizona sunset, the desert turning orange like a slow-burning ember. Dad, do you understand why I did this? There was a pause long enough for me to hear his breathing. Then, quietly, yes. One word, but it was the first honest one I'd gotten from him in years. He continued, voice rougher now. I didn't want to see what Logan was. I kept hoping he'd grow out of it. And I kept assuming you'd handle things. Because you always did. That sentence hit me harder than any insult. Because it was the truth I'd been carrying without words. They put weight on me because I didn't collapse. They used my strength as an excuse to neglect me. I'm not built to be your safety net. I said softly, I'm your daughter. I know, he whispered. And I'm sorry. I closed my eyes. The apology didn't erase the years, but it cracked something open inside me that had been sealed tight. My mother, of course, had a different approach. She left a voicemail that sounded like poison wrapped in prayer. I hope you're happy. She said, you always wanted to be better than your brother. Well, congratulations. You finally got your wish. I deleted it. Then she texted, you'll regret this when we're gone. I stared at the message and felt something surprising. Nothing. No panic. No guilt. Just a quiet emptiness where her control used to live. Because grief had already happened. It happened every time I asked to be seen and was ignored. Every time my success was minimized. Every time Logan's failures were dressed up as potential. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory. Steady and clear. Paper beats promises. I drove to the rental properties one last time before flying back to Minneapolis. Not to celebrate. To close the loop, I stood outside the first house. The one I used to help paint when I was 14. And I realized how strange it was that my family saw these places as proof of love. They weren't love. They were assets. Tools. And my brother had treated them like an ATM. I thought about the dining room applause. Logan's toast. My father's proud nod. My mother's smile. How quickly all of it collapsed when reality entered the room. Then I thought about myself. The girl who used to swallow every slight because she wanted peace. The woman who finally chose clarity over approval. On the drive back, I called Arthur and said, I want my trustee role formalized so it can't be questioned later. Arthur replied, already done. I called my attorney in Minneapolis and said, I want a full boundary plan. No contact with Logan. Communication with my parents only through email if necessary. She said, done. I didn't do these things to punish them. I did them to protect myself from the next cycle. At the airport, my father called again. His voice was quieter. Are you coming home for Christmas? I looked at the departure board. Minneapolis. Gate C12. My future flashing in bright letters. No, I said gently. I'm building a home somewhere else. He didn't argue. He just said, I understand. My mother didn't call. And that told me everything I needed to know. Before I end this story, thank you for staying with me through Kara's final step into freedom. If this journey touched something in you, your support through a like, a comment, a share, or a subscribe truly means a lot to me. I'm grateful you're here. And I read what you write. Logan signed the agreement on Tuesday. And by Friday, he was already rewriting the story like it was his job. In my parents' circle, gossip travels faster than payroll. By the weekend, I was suddenly the bitter sister who stole the inheritance. My mother's church friends watched my pages like they were waiting for me to slip. A cousin posted a quote about betrayal and tagged me without saying my name. Because cowards love fog. Logan didn't have the trust anymore. So he tried to take the narrative. He texted me at 112 a.m. You're going to pay for what you did. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to my attorney. Saved a screenshot. And blocked him. People like Logan feed on reaction. Starve them. And they choke on their own noise. Arthur filed the signed agreement the next morning. The lien was closed. The repayment plan was set up as automatic withdrawals from Logan's personal accounts. Non-negotiable. Time-stamped. Monitored. Every step documented, so no one could pretend later. Paper beats promises. My father called when the confirmation letters arrived. His voice was careful, like he was walking across thin ice. Kara, he said, your mother is furious. I looked out my hotel window at the desert sky turning orange, and I felt oddly calm. Is she furious because Logan got caught? Or because I didn't stay quiet, he exhaled. And the sound carried years of denial. Both. Then he said something I never expected to hear from him. I didn't want to see what he was doing, he admitted. I kept hoping he'd grow out of it, and I kept assuming you would handle it, because you always do. That sentence landed harder than any insult, because it was the blueprint of my whole life. They leaned on me because I didn't fall. They used my strength as permission to neglect me. I'm not your safety net, I said softly. I'm your daughter. There was a long pause. Then his voice cracked. I know. And I'm sorry. I swallowed. Throat tight. It didn't erase anything. But it was the first honest apology I'd ever gotten from him. My mother took a different route. Her voicemail came like poison dressed as prayer. I hope you're happy, she said. You always wanted to be better than your brother. Well, congratulations. You finally got your wish. Then a text. 2 minutes later. You'll regret this when we're gone. I stared at it and felt nothing. No panic. No guilt. Just a quiet emptiness where her control used to live, because my grief had already happened. 1,000 small times. Every time I asked to be seen, and was treated like an inconvenience. Before flying back to Minneapolis, I drove past the rentals one last time, not to celebrate. To close the loop, I stood on the sidewalk in front of the first house, the one I helped paint when I was 14, and I realized how wrong my family had been about what inheritance meant. They thought inheritance was money and keys and applause. I learned inheritance is also pattern and silence and permission. My grandmother left me paper. Yes, but she also left me the courage to stop begging for fairness in a system designed to deny it. At the airport, my father called again. Are you coming home for Christmas? He asked. Voice. Small. I looked up at the departure board. Minneapolis. Gate C12. My life, waiting in bright letters. No, I said gently. I'm building a home somewhere else. He didn't argue. He just whispered. I understand. My mother didn't call. And that was the cleanest answer she ever gave me. On the flight, I watched the city shrink under the clouds and felt something loosen inside me. Like a knot finally untying. Not because I won. Because I left. I didn't leave them with hatred. I left them with boundaries. And for the first time, my future felt like it belonged to me alone. Thank you for staying with me through Kara's last step into freedom. If this story meant something to you, your support through a like, a comment, a share, or a subscribe truly means a lot. I'm grateful you're here. And I read what you write with real appreciation.